Hi and welcome back to another video from Effective Dashboards. In this video I explain how we can create a toggle button that allows us to switch between measures that are displayed within a visual. So in this example here we display the hours for the backlog and we click this button here and it changes it to the count. This is great for saving space if you're struggling for real estate on your dashboard. Okay, so let's go through the steps. The steps are 3 steps and we are going to start by creating a new table. And this is going to be a special type of table. It's going to be a disconnected table and it's going to have no relationship to any of the other tables in the data model. And this is going to be the table we're going to use to select the toggle values. Next, we're going to create a measure, and that measure is going to look at 2 measures and it's going to select the backlog measure or the backlog hours measure based on this toggle value here that is selected. And then finally, we're going to update the visual. In this example here, it's going to be the matrix in the center of that dashboard. So we're going to update that visual and we're going to replace the current measure, which is backlog hours, with this new measure. And that will display either backlog hours or backlog count, depending on which value is selected in the table. If you're interested in creating the dashboard that I'm going to use in this particular example here, then visit effectivedashboards.com, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to keep up to date with the latest videos. Okay, so within a backlog analysis dashboard, and I'm just going to go to home here, and the first thing we're going to do, step 1, is we're going to create this new table. So we can go to this up option here to enter data. Now this allows you to put data straight into Power BI. And it makes it available for the current Power BI file, and it just makes it easy. Now you can import this data from Excel or from any other source, but just for the sake of this, let's just add it in here. And in here, we're going to call this measure selected, and I'm going to add 2 values in here. Hours. I'm going to click that button there. And this is going to be called work orders. And in here, I'm just going to call this backlog display toggle. And we'll just load that straight in. Just needs to have 2 values. Okay, so we can see that has appeared in our data model here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new measure. I've pasted this measure in here and I'm just going to talk you through this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the value, or we're going to determine the value that's selected in our toggle. Okay, so this table here, we're going to go and look in this table here, which has got 2 values, and we're going to use this option here, selected value, and we're going to go and look at this column here, and we're going to return that selected value. Now this selected value function, if we just look at the description here, returns a value when there is only one value in a specified column. Otherwise, returns an alternate result. So our value that's selected, we're only going to allow people to toggle between one or the other value, backlog hours or backlog work orders, and the selected value will return whichever of those is actually selected. Now, the other thing we need to do here is just make sure that if no value is selected, now this can happen when you first open a dashboard and no value is selected. So we'll put a default in here and the default will be hours. And you'll see that, see how that works later. Then we're going to create another variable, which is really just going to calculate the result. We're going to use a switch statement. Now I've got an example video of a switch statement, which I'll link to below and on the top right hand corner of this video. Basically, we're going to use it in this configuration here, which is switch, and the first argument is true. And what that will force the switch statement to do is select whichever argument it finds to be true first. So it works through this list of arguments and it will return whichever value it finds to be true. So the first thing it does is it checks this value here, which we've just selected using the selected value. And if that equals work orders, then it's going to return this value here, which is a backlog count, which is referring to this measure here, this backlog count measure. If that's not the case, if the selected value that's returned here is hours, which is either the default value or is selected as a value in the toggle, then it's going to return the hours and display the hours in here, which is what's being displayed just now. If there's no value selected here, or if for some reason it doesn't find any of these two values here, then it'll return backlog hours. Okay, so that will always be the default return and then result. So that's step number 2. We've created a new measure called backlog selection. And then we go in for step number 3, which is going to be to click on this table here, and we are going to replace this backlog hours value with this backlog selection value. Now we shouldn't see any significant change here. Just delete that one. Okay, so we can see the figures are the same. We just need to configure it to get rid of these decimal places. So let's do that right now. Click on the measure there, and we will go to the top here and change that to 0, and that should work. Just click on some other field here just to make sure that's worked. Yep, okay, so we can see, oh, we've lost the comma. Hold on again. Just make sure that comma's there. It just separates the thousands, which I think makes it a lot easier to read. And here we go. Okay, so we've got that value there. And that is it. So the final step is to go and add in a new slicer that's going to allow us to switch between this value here. So let's go and click on a piece of blank space here. We're going to create a little bit of space at the bottom to add this slicer in. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And we can play about with that dimensions a little bit later on. And then let's just add a slicer. And we're going to place that slicer at the bottom here. And let's add in this value here into the slicer. And we can see it is set up to allow us to use a checkbox. Now we need to just click on a little bit of formatting here. So the first thing I want to do is go into General, and I'm going to change this from a vertical slicer to a horizontal slicer. And that just gives us these little buttons here, which I think are a lot better. And we're going to go and change the selection controls. And we're going to click this button here as toggle here. Single selection is off, and we're going to put that single selection on because we want to make sure there's always a selection here. So it's hours just now. We can see the hours are displayed. We click on work order, and we can see this value here has changed to the number of work orders that correspond to that hours. So it's a great space-saving feature that allows you to toggle between any of the visuals, and we could do the same for this one and this one as well. We just need to go and replace. In fact, let's do that just now. So rather than using backlog count here, we just need to replace this with the backlog selection. And we'll do the same for this one here. Rather than backlog count, we'll replace it with backlog selection. And we can see if we click on here, it's going to change that to hours. Okay, so it allows you to dynamically change the whole dashboard between two different measures, and particularly in this example here where we're looking at backlog, it's often really important to understand how many work orders there are in your backlog, because that's the number of risks, the number of actual pieces of work that are overdue. But then when you look at the hours, you need to know how much effort, how much resources it's going to take to liquidate that particular backlog. So let's look at an example here. We've got wells, we've got 7 hours, and that equates to 3 work orders. Okay, so thanks for listening. Hopefully you can use this and you can apply this in your own dashboard to save some space and make a bit more of your real estate.